to the Veterinary Financial Podcast, where we discuss financial freedom and professional success. I'm Meredith Jones, a veterinarian and financial planner.
And I'm Willie, a lab animal specialist and a money nerd.
Today we are welcoming David Aizuss back to the podcast, and we have some important updates to share.
This episode marks a transition with the Veterinary Financial Podcast. So David will be the new co-host along with Meredith. You may recognize him from episode 45 and 46, which were about purchasing a home.
Student Loan Planner will be helping to support the podcast moving forward. There's a lot of background work with getting a podcast ready to publish and promoting it and that sort of thing. And so they're going to be helping with that. And I'm looking forward to expanding our audience even more. So Willie, you've been busy with several projects. Can you share more about what you've been working on lately?
Yeah, so one of the ones that's been taking quite a bit of my time is my wife started offering veterinary dermatology services in Puerto Rico, and I'm pretty much the manager for those services. So right now we just bought a management software, and I don't know if you have dealt with one with the whole onboarding thing, but putting data into the system takes so much time.
Oh, yeah.
Just like I sit in front of the TV for hours and just like adding data, adding supplies, adding services. That's a big one. And you have heard many times in this podcast about my nonprofit. So that also has me pretty busy. So pretty much traveling once, twice a month for either the dermatology services or the nonprofit work to Puerto Rico. So yeah, those are the two big projects right now that we have going on. David, so welcome to the podcast. Why the interest in helping veterinarians with their finances?
Well, first, glad to be back and super excited. It sounds like you got a lot of cool stuff going on. To answer your question, well, a couple reasons. I've always wanted to be a financial planner ever since even high school. Finance is only the thing I've ever really been professionally interested in for whatever reason. I don't know. I'm weird, but hey, most of us are. And why vets? Well, my wife's a veterinarian. We've been together since high school too. And so it's the world I know. So if I'm going to help anybody with their finances, I might as well help the people that I, one, know most about, and two, get the most enjoyment helping. Because obviously I'm biased because my wife's a vet, but I do think that you guys are the most underappreciated group of people ever, the most underserved group of people ever. And it is one of the craziest professions ever. So again, I know the most about it compared to any other profession outside of my own, and I do derive the most enjoyment out of helping you guys too. So it just makes sense.
We appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys too.
So David and I, we are working together at SLP Wealth, and so we both work with veterinarians on financial planning. And it's great to have you join the podcast, David, because it's really in alignment with our mission at Veterinary Financial Summit and with the podcast, which is helping veterinarians achieve their financial goals. And so, David, you and I were both certified student loan professionals, and we also work with Student Loan Planner as consultants as well.
Yes, that's a fun world.
Yeah, and I'm a big Student Loan Planner fan. That's how I started my journey on finances, just consuming information from their blog and from their podcast. So I'm pretty excited for this new collaboration with them. And what's it like to work with them?
For me, it's been kind of surreal because I think I found out about them originally through one of y'all's podcast episodes, actually, which my wife found. I can't remember the details of it. I think you guys had Megan on, but I was like, oh, what's that? And so then I looked into that. This is years ago. I had our own student loan consult back when things were a little bit more simple, it seems like, in student loan world. But, one thing led to another, and here I am. What it's like to work with them, it's great. Student loans today are super, mega, ultra complicated, right? It's not like any other debt. It's not an auto loan. It's not a credit card. It's not a mortgage, right? And most veterinarians have a lot of student loans, relatively speaking. And it's not bad or good, it's just the way it is. So you want to make sure that you know how to treat them. Do you go for forgiveness? Do you not go for forgiveness? If you do go for forgiveness, what are the different IDR plans should you use? Should you consolidate? Should you specifically not? What the heck is going on with Save right now? What should you do in light of the lawsuits? Now it's getting even more complicated. And so what it's like is this train of thought that I'm now expressing. There's 100 different possibilities that any client can do. And for some reason, Meredith, me, and the rest of the team really love going through that puzzle piece for clients. And so that is what it's like. And I, for some reason, find it a lot of fun playing that game and saving the most money on your student loans. Because again, it works totally different than any other type of debt. Basically, I don't lose any sleep over my wife's $250,000 student loans, right? But that would be different if it was credit card debt. But you just need to know how to play the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back in spring of 2022, I believe, was when we had interviewed Megan Landris for the podcast. And yeah, it's amazing that that's how you found Student Loan Planner and now joining us for the podcast.
Small world. It's freaking crazy. One of her coworkers at her practice actually listened to the housing episode that we did and then reached out to her and was like, "Was that your husband?" What? Yeah, it's just so surreal to be on here and now going to be co-hosting. I think it's crazy, but I'm having fun, and no, it's just awesome. And yeah, on the student loan side, for some reason, even amidst this craziness that we're going through right now in the federal student loan world, I still think it's a lot of fun, and I really do love helping people save the most on their student loans, because there's, it's just weird.
It is. I did my consult with SLP 4 years ago with Travis, and I knew what I was going to do from there. I just wanted my wife to hear it as well, because, it's my student loans and hers together. And now I just can't believe that everything keeps changing, and now what's happening with the SAFE program, it's just getting so complicated that I'm like, oh, I'm glad I did it. I feel comfortable with my plan. Like you said, we both have $300-something thousand student loan. I sleep fine with it. I know what I'm doing. I know my plan. So yeah, definitely appreciate that. So why is it important to work with a financial planner who understands student loans?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. I'll give some examples and then maybe some definitions. An example for myself is, well, a lot of vets have lots of student loans. And if you didn't know how to game plan correctly around them, which a lot of financial planners treat student loans like an auto loan, meaning, oh, how old are you? What's the interest rate? Therefore, pay it off this aggressively, right? If you did that, you might forego being able to buy that first property. You might forego, if you want to buy into a practice or build your own vet hospital, if you try to pay it off as aggressively as possible because you don't know the other strategies. You can't do both most of the time. You got to pick. And so if you don't know how to treat your student loans to save the most money, not only are you not saving the most money, but the opportunity cost of what you're leaving on the table with what you could be doing with those dollars, if you deployed it in the most efficient manner, knowing how student loans work, is insane. I can tell you personally, the house that my wife and I bought, if we just tried to aggressively pay off the student loans as fast as possible, but didn't have the financial knowledge of, oh, California, community property state, oh, what's happening with pay versus new IBR versus save, maybe we should do married filing separately, take advantage of community property state rules to split our income so we don't pay that much more in taxes by doing so, but then we get to exclude my income, and now the payment is cut in half, even more in some cases, and now we feel comfortable buying that piece of real estate. Total life change because we have an understanding of how student loans work. Versus many at times we run into clients, whether it's with a financial planner who doesn't have the student loan knowledge, or they're doing it on their own, or even worse, they get a financial planner who specifically tells them to do the, quote, the objectively wrong student loan strategy, but they just follow it. They could have bought that practice. They could have bought that house. They could have done X investment. They could have achieved their life goal, whatever that is, 10 years sooner than if they, hadn't treated their student loans in the most optimal way for their specific circumstance. So it matters, it is the difference of owning that practice, owning that home versus not. Having an advisor who knows how to optimize your student loans.
Yeah, I've talked with a lot of financial planners through running the Vet Financial Summit, and, most financial planners, one, don't know a lot about student loans because it's actually a very, very minimal part of the certified financial planner curriculum. Like, it is a minuscule portion of what they learn during that. So even if they have that professional certification, doesn't mean that they know about student loans. Another thing is that even if they know about student loans, it's just kind of a necessary evil to a lot of financial planners, and they actually hate student loans versus it being something that they're interested in, like David and I are, and, you know, wanting to keep up with all of the student loan news and all of the nuances and things like that.
Yeah, it's a full-time job keeping up with it. The CFP coursework has, a couple pages of content on it. And that's out of date probably, because even the CSLP designation that we all have, it was out of date by the time I took the test. And that was way back when. Now, with all the save injunction stuff, right? So it is a full-time job keeping up to date with the current strategies, with the different administrations, with the different court cases. So that's another reason why, if you don't specialize in it, like 1 month of not being in that world, you're going to be like, what the heck just happened? How am I supposed to advise my clients now on it? So ongoing student loan support is probably the most important thing. It's not just a one and done plan. You could do that, but you really want to keep a pulse on the world to make sure you're not leaving any money on the table.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is being able to identify planning opportunities that other people might miss because they're not, keeping up with the changes in the student loan world. And so, yeah, it's really important.
Yeah.
So how do you keep up with the news? Because now I see you guys at SLP, like the Justice League, like you guys sit in a round table and you just have to discuss, because it's like you can interpret what just happened very different from, other people in SLP. Do you guys meet frequently to discuss these ruling changes that happen pretty much on a weekly basis now?
Yeah, the student loan planner team has regular meetings where we talk about these things. The other thing that I never really thought about till I joined Student Loan Planner is I just always got my student loan news from, Forbes or, whoever published the latest news. Sometimes I'm still getting the latest news from Forbes because sometimes it hits that publication before it hits anywhere else. But I never realized that we have full access to all of the federal court rulings, right? So when they either are in the negotiated rulemaking process for a major piece of legislation that has to do with student loans, like we can actually look that up. And we actually do. And we read through it and know all of the nuances of it. And then with the save court actions, like we go and actually read the documents related to it. It's just something I never thought of or never thought to do before I joined the team. What do you think, David?
Yeah, it's just a team of people who wake up and the first thing they want to do is make sure that they're up to date on all of the most recent student loan changes by doing those things, by actually looking at the regulation documents and what's happening with the court cases, not just the news, though we do follow everything in the news. An example, like Meredith just said, it was like the day of, maybe within a couple hours of it being publicly released, she slacked everybody in our group Slack channel, hey, looks like the courts responded to the Department of Ed's request for clarification. Not to go too in depth of what that means, but basically Department of Ed was like, hey, courts, did you mean to pause those 300 extra pages of regulations, or did you just mean to pause this one thing about save? Because do you know what you did? Please clarify. And then the courts were just like, no, we're not going to clarify.
Yeah.
And Meredith posted that doc of them saying that, like, I don't know, again, within hours of it happening. So for me personally, I just leave it to the rest of the team to keep me informed because they're really darn good at it. So thank you, Meredith.
Sure. I'm so nerdy that I've started subscribing to just like getting notifications for certain things, like the writers who publish some of these things. So that's how I end up finding out about some of the stuff a little bit early.
And I'm in Pacific time because I'm on the West Coast. So I don't even try to like beat them to the punch on learning this stuff, because usually I'll wake up in the morning, check my Slack, and there's already 10 updates. And I'm like, great, because I'm 3 hours behind.
So, and for our listeners, I mean, this is in no way a suggestion to do what I do or do what David does. This is we keep up with the student loan news so you don't have to.
Yeah, that's why our profession exists, is so that you guys can keep on doing what you're best at, and that's being doctors.
No, I love hearing that because, we always talk about the pet owners going to Google first, Dr. Google, and it's like, well, same as student loans. Like maybe Google doesn't have the best answer, but student loan planners, that's what they focus on. So you should go ahead and look for good resources. So now that you are interested in helping veterinarians because you have one in your household, what is one of the biggest concerns for veterinarians when starting to work with a financial planner?
In my experience, it's really finding someone that you trust. This goes beyond just veterinarians, but there are some specifics to vets. I think the most important thing with anything finance related is getting a professional that you trust, that, you feel comfortable messaging, that you feel comfortable asking any question, and that you feel like they have your best interest in mind. The financial world is riddled with a lot of different types of financial advisors, some of which call themselves financial advisors, but the way that they get paid is off a commission of selling you a particular product. In the vet world, a lot of that's like whole life, universal index life, that kind of stuff. This is not the podcast to discuss whether or not that makes sense for you, but there is a big problem specifically for vets being pitched those types of products when it doesn't necessarily make financial sense for them because it, lines the pockets with commissions of the person who sold it to you. And particularly, it's a problem in the vet world because a lot of the marketing has to do with, this is a great way to save for your student loan tax bomb. It's usually not. But again, that's not for here to discuss. The point is in the finance world, there are a lot of different types of financial advisors, some of which are fiduciary, some of which are not. And even with thousands of different advisors to choose from, with different comp structures, with different incentives, and most of them don't know a thing about vet med, or rather working with veterinarians. Like, you probably want your financial planner to know what ProSal is. So then that way, when you get a new contract because you're looking at switching practices because the practice that just reached out to you, you relieved at once, and they practice a much better type of quality of medicine that you're looking to practice versus the one that you're currently at. The management's better, the culture is better, the whatever, but you're going to have to take a pay cut, you think, because of less demand in that area, but there's room to buy into the practice, and they said it's ProSal in the offer letter, but it's really not because they said, oh, base $90K, but ProSal kicks in at 22% after 110. What the heck does that mean? This is literally a case that happened a few days ago, and Meredith actually helped me on that one, and it was great. The client's super happy. They know what the offer is now. We clarified everything. And they're going back and forth with the new employer, and I think everything's going to work out great. But the point is you want an advisor who's able to advise you on all that kind of stuff, not just what investment should I have in that one account, right? And so I think to fully answer your question is a lot of vets are looking for that know-how, who also, they're incentivized to make you happy, not to sell you a particular product. And that can be hard to find. Like on the real estate episode, what do you look for in a loan officer or a realtor? Someone you trust. So I think that's what a lot of vets are looking for, and it is tough to find.
That's a great response. I feel like, we try to do the best for the animals and the clients, so we're hoping that people do the same to us. So certainly love that answer.
All right, awesome. So David, we've already done some webinars together. We've done some home buying related webinars, and be on the lookout for more coming up. And for the podcast moving forward, our plan is to vary up the content with more topic-based episodes and some Q&As, and then continue to also have some interviews interspersed in there as well. So if you'd like to get in touch with us, feel free to send us an email. David and I, our SLP Wealth emails are just our names at slpwealth.com. So David at slpwealth.com, Meredith at slpwealth.com. And then, Willie, you said the best way to get in touch with you is what platform again?
I don't know. I feel like not a millennial, but whatever generation is after Instagram. Willie B, it's just so easy to tell people. It's my name plus, the first letter of my last name, Bidot. So Willie B.
All right, Willie B. Willie, thank you for your contributions to the podcast over the last 2.5 years. And of course, we'll stay in touch. And VetMed is a small world, as we've said, and I'm sure we'll cross paths again with you soon.
Thank you. It's been a great 2.5 years. I have greatly enjoyed being the co-host and having some good discussions with you.
All right, awesome. Yeah, it's been great working with you. David, I'm so excited to work with you, and I can't wait to see what we build as vet-specific financial planners, and I'm looking forward to some great conversations.
Me too. Let's take over the vet world. I want to be household names. My goal is to make sure that vets can achieve their financial needs, wants, and goals in the best way possible and make the most money possible because you all deserve it. So there you go.
All right, awesome. If you liked this episode, click the follow or subscribe button. Until next time, take care and continue your path to financial success.
The information provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only. It should not be considered legal or financial advice. Consult with a legal or financial professional before making any investment decisions.